This episode is brought to you by Farmers Insurance. When was the last time you reviewed your insurance policy? It's been a while, huh? Well, no worries. My friends at the Austin Brummett Agency would love to hear from you and provide you with some amazing rates. Give them a call at 678-402-8262 or email them at abrummett@farmersagent.com. That's ABRUMIT at farmersagent.com. And tell them Harli sent you. You're listening to Inside the Bubble with Harli G, the podcast for the superwoman. Every week, we connect with amazing individuals who share their inspirational experiences and stories while motivating and inspiring purpose. It's time to hang your cape. Grab your coffee, your water, your cocktail, and come on in Inside the Bubble with me, your host, Harli G. Welcome. This is Inside the Bubble with Harli G. I'm your host, Harli G, and we are here today to talk about something that is actually near and dear to my heart. So I have Betsy here with me today. Good morning. Who's going to talk about her journey. And I think this is something that impacts a lot of people, a lot of women, but it's not to say that it's just women, right? So also men. But today we are going to talk about Betsy's breast cancer journey, which is something that is courageous. It has purpose in it. And I'm really interested to hear the story. I feel like I've heard this story, but not like all in one package. Like I feel like I've heard like the entire story, but like at different times, right? And what's really interesting to me, like I think one of the most interesting thing to me is that, and we're going to get into this, is that Betsy does not want to be called a breast cancer survivor. No. And that is, I cannot wait to get into that because I feel like that is something that, you know, that's going to be, that's a message that I really want to get out there and I really want to hear it. So Betsy, you have like two grown children, like grown.
Yes.
They're grown.
Yeah, my baby just turned 20 last week.
That's not a baby. Okay, well, it's your baby.
My
but
baby.
I'm like 20 something. That's huge. Okay. So you have two children. So tell me a little bit about like how, when this journey started, how it happened. And we're probably going to get emotional. It's okay.
Okay, so I guess we can start from the breast cancer journey.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, it's been 2004, probably July. Like, and this is super embarrassing, but I found a zit on my breast. I was picking at it.
Okay.
And whenever I picked at it, I felt something underneath.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever the gumball machines, but you can also get the little prizes, and they're shaped like capsules, but they're shaped more like rectangle capsules.
Oh, okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's what it felt like.
Elongated.
That's what it felt like in there. I'm like, this isn't right. And that was the only symptom. I didn't feel bad or anything.
Okay.
So I went to my OBGYN. Shout out to Dr. Vonda Klein.
Woo!
She was my doctor when my daughter was delivered, and there's a whole story there as well. But
okay.
She was fantastic, took me seriously, sent me to an amazing breast cancer doctor who, if you went to her office, like there were stains on the wall, it was a run-down looking office, but this woman was amazing. She's since retired.
Okay.
But first they did my ultrasounds,
mm-hmm.
and in the ultrasounds they didn't find anything.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, young breasts are very dense. The tissue's very
okay.
dense.
Okay.
Now my old boobs, if they took me in there, not nearly as dense, easier to find. But young breast tissue is very dense. So they sent the pictures, I guess, because I didn't go to medical school, to Dr. Angela Robbins. Again, another shout out. To her, and she was actually able to find things in the pictures.
Wow.
And then she did an ultrasound on me. The mammograms weren't quite as great as the ultrasound, and she actually found a mass. Actually,
it sounded like it was like buried or something. Like she had to do some detective work to find this.
So I actually had 2 masses it was obviously on this breast because I keep touching this breast. So 2 masses.
Yes.
And she figured out that actually the cancer was in between the masses.
Oh, wow.
So it's in situ ductal carcinoma, which means that it was...
First of all, the fact that you even remember that medical term is impressive.
It's the only medical thing I remember.
That you know.
Yeah, I'm the type that I like black out and I can't hear anything.
Exactly.
So that's why anytime someone's like, oh, I think I've got this, I'm like, take somebody with you. Because they're not as emotionally...
Right. They can remember more information than you can.
So I took my husband with me.
Okay.
90% of the visits.
Shout out to David.
Shout out to David. So he like researched and stuff. I couldn't look anything up online. Yeah. Whatever. But anyway, so she found it after she did an ultrasound on it and she found it, and it's funny, interesting, a little bit funny, haha. But I have a mole on this breast that when I was a kid, with a stethoscope, that was the only place that a doctor could hear my heart murmur. Because I have a heart murmur.
Oh, me too.
Heart murmur bugs.
Heart murmur sisters. Okay.
So, but it's the only place that you could hear it with a stethoscope.
Okay.
And that's where my breast cancer was underneath that mole. So it was kind of like, hey, look here. So
the mole was like you know how you have a map and like X marked the spot?
Yes.
Like the mole was that.
I wonder if there's anything else under that. I don't know what else is left.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So, and then she did what's it called? A biopsy.
Yeah, when you take like a sample of the actual...
so she was like, oof. I'm getting this super fancy, high-tech, ultra biopsy
equipment
machine. Yeah. It's going to be like another month. Do you want to wait? And I was like, I was already comfortable with her.
Oh, okay.
So I actually waited.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I went on vacation.
You're better than me.
You're
better than me.
Well, my mother had died of cancer, not breast cancer, had died of cancer like 2.5 years prior.
Okay.
And so I was like that would have been 4 years prior. So I was kind of in a state, and weird. I like glommed onto her because I was super comfortable with her and I don't want anybody else doing it.
Okay.
So we did that, and I don't know if you've had a biopsy, but...
No, I have not.
They numb you, and she had to do 2 different types of biopsies, and one of them was like pressure, and then the other one was like you feel pain in your bones.
Oh, gosh.
So, and it's like, wasn't pain in the skin or anything, but it was like
deep in there.
Pain. Oh. I guess it's like if you have RA or something like that, when it's wet, how you hurt, that's kind of how it hurt. So then she found that she never recommended that I got chemo or radiation. She recommended not that I get a I don't remember what it's called, where they just cut out that tissue. Yeah. She recommended mastectomy.
So and that's just like removing it altogether.
Yeah, in my mind, she went in and had like a melon baller and scooped out all the breast tissue. Okay. I know that's not what they did.
No,
I hope it's not what they did. I hope she wasn't in there with a melon ball.
With a melon ball. I mean, you know what? Use whatever equipment you need to.
Exactly. Hopefully,
it works.
Kennestone has better equipment than that. But, so, because my mother had died of colorectal cancer, she had had treatment and everything, but her cancer came back with a vengeance, like everywhere. So I wasn't afraid of the initial cancer. I was afraid of cancer coming back. Especially since at the time my daughter was 2 and Marin was 2 and Monty was like 2 months before he turned 4. So they're little. And so I was really afraid of it coming back, and we talked to her about it, and I was like, okay, if this was your sister, if this was your daughter,
what would you tell
What
them?
would you recommend?
Yeah.
And she's like, I would do a bilateral, which means both sides. Even though we only knew that we had cancer on this side.
Yeah.
And then when she did the surgery, she actually found cancer on this side.
See, yeah. So.
But she had determined that it was very, very slow growing. So me waiting a month to have the biopsy was not a big deal.
It's not gonna.
She said I probably had it for 5 to 10 years.
Wow.
Considering I was 31 when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, that's a big deal. So my doctor didn't tell me this, but I have concluded it's because I lived in Germany when I was in middle school during Chernobyl, and the weather patterns were such that the rain would like start up there and then come down, and like my mom always said those were the best strawberries she's ever had in her life or whatever. But my mother died at 46 of colorectal cancer. You normally don't get tested for that until you're 50. And the day that I had my biopsy, a girl that I went to middle school with died of stomach cancer. And then they've done studies, and anybody about my age or anybody that came up that lived in like Scandinavia, their levels of cancer is astronomical.
Why is that though?
Just because of the way the weather was, and they didn't shut down Chernobyl as quickly as they could have. So, because I'm a scientist.
Of course.
Especially
amongst other things.
When I was 13 and 14 living in Germany. So, yeah. So, but luckily it was a very slow growing. I always used to joke that when I was done having babies, I was going to get my boobs done. And well,
this was kind of like, this was kind of
what you wish for.
Exactly, right? So it kind of happened by default. So. Now, you're going through this. You did mention that David is right there with you, supporting, going to your appointments with you. How was your support system at the time? Like, what?
I had an amazing support system. I mean, obviously, my mother wasn't there. And I failed to mention, my father had a stroke the day before my daughter was born. So he wasn't able to help a whole lot. But I was a stay-at-home mom at that point, and I belonged to Mom's Club of Ackworth.
Woo woo! Shout out to Mom's Club of Ackworth.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
And they were amazing. These women, they would bring me food. They would have play dates. They would take my kids to preschool and stuff. They gave my kids a sense of normalcy. Which was I'm about to tear up now. To me, that is what is the most
impactful,
is how these women came in.
Yeah.
So they came in, they helped, it made me capable of dealing
with things,
of not being able to hold my 2-year-old and not being able to take the trick-or-treating.
Oh, but
that's my favorite.
But it's okay. But you know what? That allowed you to be here today.
Yes.
So imagine if you were going through this and then you didn't have that support system, the added stress that comes with it, the worry, the concern.
It would have been,
the mental state.
It would have taken a lot longer for me to heal.
Yeah.
Because it takes a long time to heal.
Yeah.
So, and then in addition, our dog that we had for like 10 years died the day after my mastectomy. So my husband's friends in the neighborhood helped him. They all had a beer. They dug a hole in the backyard and they buried Trixie together, and they supported him with that. My mother-in-law came up and stayed with us and took care of me. My aunt drove my grandmother down and surprised me at the hospital after my surgery. They only stayed for like 2 days,
but still,
yeah. So a whole bunch of, like, my best friend from high school and her best friend from college came down and played with the kids and everything, took Marin shopping for shoes, and that made them super happy because she bought little stripper shoes. they're clear plastic heels.
I remember, like, it was like the little kit, right? Yeah. Oh my gosh!
Yeah, they enjoy that because neither of them had kids yet. So it gave them great joy for Marin to be walking out with her little bag of shoes and the rest of you. So, yeah.
So that sense of community was really a huge impact for you. That really kind of
yeah. Whenever I read stories that people are like, oh yeah, my family's not helping and my husband left me and this, I'm like, I'm flabbergasted.
Yeah.
I mean, I just can't.
Yeah. That community is huge. Which is something that I specifically speak to in the podcast, is that building that sense of community, building that support system around you that's going to propel you forward, because you cannot do this alone. And that is a lie. Telling yourself that you can do this alone. I'm not saying that you're not, superwoman and you can't do everything, because we are all superwomen. And yes, we do it every single day. We put on our cape, but that community is everything. It's amazing.
I mentioned my mother passed away 4 years prior to that. And I didn't want to learn a lesson. But a lesson that I learned from this is my mother refused help from anybody but my father. And so both of them were exhausted all the time.
Well, that puts pressure on him that he could be getting help with, added stress. And then it's like, that also stresses her out, because she's solely relying on one person, and what if something happens to that person? Or
I saw the toll it took on both of them, and if nothing else, I was like, no, you can't do this alone. And you shouldn't try to do it alone.
No,
for two reasons. Number one, because you can't. It actually will impede your recovery, and it might affect your marriage and your relationships. But number two, this is how people who love you try to, they don't know what to do. They feel helpless. They like, oh my gosh.
They can't take it away from you, right?
Exactly,
like that's what they want to do, but that's not possible.
So instead, let them bring you a meal.
Right.
Or let them clean your toilet.
Absolutely.
I remember after my surgery, some women brought some food to us, and Dave was like, why do they keep bringing food? I can order food from Outback. I don't need this. I'm like,
but this is how they show they care.
I told her, I said, them bringing food isn't about us.
Yes.
Them bringing food is about them, because they feel helpless, and that's why we have to let it. And he's like, okay. That being said, I have a meatloaf dish that I make that, and I hated meatloaf prior to this. I did not like it. But I joke that it was almost worth having cancer for.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Shout out to Christy Blair.
Okay, shout outs. We're just going to be shouting out.
Wait, no. Was that Christy's? No, this was Karen Melnick.
Oh, wow.
Karen Melnick.
Let's make sure we get the right person.
Turkey tetrazzini.
Okay.
Can you believe that almost 20 years later I remember
the names like vividly?
Oh, I mean the food that people.
Oh, the food. It's more about the food than the person who
Michelle Scott brought me a delicious lasagna. Just saying. But yeah, we joke that the meatloaf recipe was almost worth having cancer for.
Wow. Almost. Right. Almost. So I want to get into something, right? I want to get into the story behind. Okay, so before I do that, sorry, let me just rewind a little bit. You're going through this. We talked about the community around you and the help and the support that you received. Were the kids aware of what was going on? I know they were very young at the time, but
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think they just were like, okay, this is what's happening. We're just going to go with the flow, because they didn't have enough life experience to realize that this
is not normal.
Yeah,
something's going on.
2 years. And for the most part, with the exception of me being the one taking care of them and me being able to like pick them up and hold them, their life was fairly
the same.
Yeah, fairly much the same. I mean, they had extra people in the house.
Yeah.
They had extra. Oh, we've got all these visitors that are.
And how long was this, by the way? Like, so you found out about this when, and then when do you feel like...
I first went into the doctor in July. I had my biopsy in September, and my surgery was like 3 or 4 days before Halloween.
Okay, so July. We're in October now.
Yeah, and then you have to have spacers. Like when you have a mastectomy, if you're going to have implants put in, which because I'm 31. Of course I am. I'm 31. I have a husband. So the spacers have to be in for 6 weeks to 2 months in order to stretch the skin back out. Because when they take out the tissue, they also take some of the skin out. And by the way, I did ask them to leave the mole, so it's still there.
Oh my gosh!
So I'm not going to show it to you. I mean, it's in a place that, like, if I'm wearing a low cut,
you might see it,
but I'm not. It's not that kind of show.
Exactly.
So, and then I had to have the implants, and the healing from that takes a long time as well. So I think I was all said and done. I was done in April of 2005.
Oh, okay. So this is like, because July. So this is like 9 to 10 months later.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right.
But it was emotional, and it was physically, it was kind of difficult, but it wasn't anywhere near the same thing as, say, if I had chemo or radiation or any of that.
Yeah.
My aunt had breast cancer probably about 10 years ago, and she went through chemo radiation and was sick as a dog.
Yep.
Just so sick. And I didn't go through that. My mom had chemo and radiation and like got burned from the radiation.
Yeah.
And so
yeah, my mother is actually no, you don't like that term, but my mother is a breast cancer survivor. So my senior year in college, found out that she had breast cancer. And thankfully, actually both of my sisters were still home at the time. One was in college, but she was kind of going back and forth. She was close enough to go back and forth. And then my youngest sister was still home. And it was actually my sister who was just like, what is going on right there? Like, what is that? And my mother, being a nurse in the hospital system day in and day out, like literally was like ignoring it. Yeah. And my sister was the one who was just kind of like, she called me on the phone and she was telling me about it. I was like, before you leave and go back to school, your job is to go with her to the appointment. And they went, and she took my mom, and we found out that it was breast cancer. And so I was actually graduating, and I am the first graduate in my family. And I was graduating, and my mom was like, not missing this, do not care, like what if I have to like walk, And so my mother literally had her first round of chemo that day. She had her first round of chemo earlier that day, and then they get in a car, in a minivan, and they drive 12 hours from Miami to Montgomery, Alabama to see me graduate. And my best friend was with her. One of my best friends was traveling with them, and she was like, Harli, we literally had to stop almost every hour so that your mom could throw up, because the ride, she should have just went and rested and for 2 days after that, right? But my mother, Jeanette is when Jeanette says,
I don't know anybody else like that at all.
When Jeanette says she's gonna do something, oh my gosh. So anyway, so I want to get into why. What is the reason? What is the philosophy behind you not wanting to be called a breast cancer survivor? Because I think that is huge. Okay.
So my reasoning has actually changed over time.
Okay.
Initially, I hated it because I saw what my mother went through, which was so horrible. I mean, at the end, I could carry my mother. And so the chemo, the radiation, the sickness, the weight loss, the hair loss, like all of that, I saw that. I saw at the end whenever she had it in her bones and she fell and broke her hip making the bed. So I saw that, and when I went through was nothing in comparison.
So you look at your journey, you look at her journey, and you're like, wait a minute, they're not the same at all, right?
And again, that was...
Is there some guilt there, too? Did you feel guilty?
No, I actually did not feel guilty.
Okay.
I didn't feel guilty. It was different things, but I used... if I compared it, which you're not supposed to compare yourself to others.
Right.
But the journey, and I knew that she was not the only one who went through things like that. I had found a support group online for young breast cancer people. And some of them like 18 years old who had never been kissed. And then there are people who are in their 20s and didn't have kids yet and all of that. So I was like, my journey, I've got a support system. This is not a survivorship. And then as I've gotten older, I get angry with the warrior and the fight, because that is saying that people who die from cancer didn't fight hard enough. That is putting the blame on them. And if somebody has a heart attack, we don't say they're a heart survivor.
Yeah, very true.
If they have like a embolism, they're not an embolism survivor.
Well, I feel like it's a matter of perspective, right? And not to say that your perspective is wrong, because we all have our own, your perception is your reality, right? But I do feel like some people's journey, everybody's journey is different, is unique to you. And your mother's journey, I feel like, it sounds like to me that it was a constant struggle. It was a constant fight, right? It
was horrible.
So I think that when people think about overall, they think about the idea of breast cancer, any cancer.
Yeah.
I think for the most part, that's what they see. That's what they think of. That's what comes to their mind when they're thinking about fighting cancer. Like, you're in there, you are, like
Except
you said,
the only one that's fighting the cancer is the doctor.
Your body's fighting it, though. It is fighting it. Your body is fighting it. It's going
the
through
medicine
something.
in your body is causing it to fight it.
Okay.
I feel like, and I've read this in other places where I feel like the fight cancer thing is not what the people going through cancer are saying. It's what everyone else is saying. It's like, fight like a girl. Those are the t-shirts. That's what people wear. That's not what I'm doing.
Okay. So if you had a message for cancer, what would your message be?
Oh, God.
Just based on your journey, based on your experience, based on your story.
Anytime I hear somebody talk about that they might have cancer or something, or they need to go in, I'm like, always take somebody with you. You can't do it on your own. That is the number one thing. And studies actually say that if you don't have a support group, you're less likely to survive. So that's not fighting, that's loving. So we're going to love cancer. No, that sounds horrible.
No. Rewind that. Well, yeah.
But also if you're tired, don't put the blame. I was like, oh, I'm too tired to fight. I don't know that I have a message, but I just remember it's like, they're tired, they're sick, don't put that extra layer on them.
Got it.
So
you have changed your mind about that term now, as you have gotten wiser in life.
My reason for not liking the term survivor and fight has changed.
Okay.
So I actually dislike the whole fight thing now, whereas before I didn't, and now I'm against it. I feel like it's not victim shaming, but it's along those same lines.
Okay.
It's like you're putting extra pressure on the person who is going through this experience.
Okay. So what are some of what do you feel like this has changed in your life? Like this specific experience has changed this in my life.
Well, I know one thing, and it hit me very strong for like the first several years after that. And then every once in a while I get slapped in the face with it, and I remember it's I want to hear things can always be worse. It kind of harkens back to my mother.
Very true.
But it also made me aware of, you know what, things can always be worse. I could have had a daughter and we lived in a third world country. I could live in a country where my daughter would have been married at 11. I mean, things could always be worse. And because of that, it has kind of progressed, especially with everything going on around in our culture and the horrible things going on in our country right now. I feel like it gives me a a better sense of empathy,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm able to see other people's structures.
Mm-hmm.
Not structures, struggles a little
Struggles.
bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe I'm overstepping and I am saying a little, but I do feel like I somewhat empathetic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Okay. So like, I have to say something. Like, I have to say that me and Betsy are we're very much empath, and so we've been working together. I've been at Gas South for 7 years, literally. Okay,
Oh my God.
what's today's date? Today is the
18th.
The 18th.
Day
So
before
2 days. In 2 days, June 20th will be my 7-year anniversary at Gas South, which is cray. But yeah, I can't believe it. So Betsy was already there when I started there, and we had.
What you're gonna say?
Oh my gosh! No! Because we are very similar. First of all, we're both Leos, so we're like 2 days apart. Our bosses used to call us twins. Like, okay,
You can see it, right?
obviously. Anyway, so we had this thing. Our VP will call us into her office, right? And it was just like, she'll ping us, whatever. She'll be like, hey, Harli, I need you to come into the office. Or, hey, Betsy, I need you to come into my office. Automatically, we're both grabbing our purses. We're cleaning off our desk. We're like, you know what? It was nice to meet you.
We always assume we're being always.
I'm sitting here, and she used to get so aggravated with us. She was just like, what is wrong with y'all? And we're like, what?
So much is wrong with us.
We don't have time. We don't have time to explain everything to you.
You don't have enough notebooks in your office to take notes on this.
Exactly. So it was like, we had this thing where we were just kind of like always assuming the worst. And do you think that comes from experiences in life? Like your experiences? Like, what is
I've always been like that. I've been like that since before all this crap that I've gone through.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I've always been like that. I'm better now than I was.
Yeah, we are much better. I still, it's almost kind of like it's my default, and I've done a really good job of, I don't want to say fighting it, but I've done a really good job in being self-aware of it. But every once in a while, you know, it's like it'll peek its little head. But we have done better. I have to say. Yeah.
Like, I was super, super doormatty when I was younger. Like, never said no to anybody. Super meek.
Pleaser, people pleaser.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And I know that is because of, I was raised by Midwesterners. I was a girl being raised in the 70s and 80s. And girls were always
could not be heard.
nice,
Could not be seen.
Boys will be boys. And girls are blah, 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 blah. I'm so happy that our daughters aren't being raised like that.
Oh my God. My daughter is a Hellcat. She's a terrorist.
She's going to be like you and strong like you and the rest of y'all.
Oh my gosh. Anyway. But yes. So glad that they're being raised very differently. And
And I caught myself once that I saw that I was raising her the way I had been, and I'm like, no. I'm like, you stand up for yourself, but you're
it's not to say that the way you were raised was wrong.
I meant I was going down that doormat path.
Yes.
And then I literally remember when like the light bulb came on. I'm like, no, I'm not doing this to her.
Yeah.
She's like 6 or 7, so there was already damage done by that point. But I was like,
but you had enough time to like.
So I like in the middle of talking to her, I'm like, no, no. You stand up for yourself, but you are always kind and you're never cruel.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. So looking at your breast cancer journey, what do you feel like was the purpose in that experience, in that journey? What was the purpose? Like, if you were to pull something out of it, you were like, what was the point of me going through all of this?
So, I generally speaking do not believe in fates and purpose and any of that. I am not a religious person. I'm agnostic because I'm not 100% certain what I believe. So I don't necessarily, but then as I said earlier regarding my mom, the lesson that I learned, so like I've got all these conflicting things in my head.
Okay.
So I feel like what I learned from mine is compassion. I really feel like the tagline is #it can always be worse, which I know is very it's not like, oh, that's a wonderful mantra or whatever. But that's like the easiest way for me to say it. I feel like I'm a fairly casual person, and that is straightforward to the point. And it kind of puts me in a way where it's like, no, I can see where this person is coming from. I can see the struggles that they're going through, and I know that my struggles have never been that bad. If that makes sense.
Yes, I do. And we're not gonna dig too much into what you just said about, like, you know, the whole faith thing, because I do strongly believe in purpose. That's something that's kind of like my foundation, right? Like that's
who you are. That is part of your heart. And I just know that's, I don't 100% know what I believe, but it's not important enough for me to spend time to delve in. It may be later on.
Maybe, yeah.
It might be.
Maybe now, you know what I'm saying? Because I have to say, I didn't always know what my purpose was. Like, this was something, and we had that conversation. You and I have been really close for a while. And it wasn't, 7 years ago when you met me, I had no idea what it was. So I do believe that things happen when they should happen. I do strongly believe that, whether it's spiritual or whatever. I do believe that everything has its timing. And I didn't, like I said, I didn't always believe, I didn't always know what my purpose was. But putting together my core values, really kind of thinking about them, like that connection piece. I have to have, like, I just have to, like, people wake up and they have to have their cup of coffee, right? I have to have connection. Like, it's just part of me. It's part of who I am. And so when people look at me and they're like, oh my gosh, we're at a function or social, me and Betsy are like butterflies. We are working the room. Like, people are like, oh my gosh, like, they're just like social butterflies and blah, blah, blah. So in a way, I do think that connection is probably one of your core values too.
Well, I'm sure it is.
Yeah. Just knowing what I know about you.
I know what is important to me. I don't know that I think of it in terms of, to me, when you say the word purpose, to me that denotes a spiritual thing.
It doesn't always have to be spiritual.
I know it doesn't, but in my mind it was. It's like, why did God put you on earth?
Yeah, which is actually how I translate it, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way, though. It could be a I don't know. What?
I was raised, my parents were very spiritual, not religious. They believed very strongly in God.
Yeah, but like going to church and those things. Yeah,
they would send my brother and I to Sunday school across the street, so they would have their Sunday mornings. And I didn't understand
for the right reasons.
Somebody explained to me like a year ago what that meant. I'm like, so. Yeah, I thought they just went back to sleep. No.
Really?
Yes.
Betsy? So disappointed.
I know.
Come on.
I know. So,
okay.
But yeah, not raised religious, raised that they very strongly believed in God, but I never really... And I'm also super interested in a whole bunch of different religions.
But that doesn't mean that you don't believe it. Okay, I don't want to like that is not.
Okay,
I don't want to do that. We don't have time.
But you and I have a relationship that I'm okay talking about this with you.
Okay.
I never.
And I'm not trying to like convert you one way or
exactly, which is why I know I can talk with you about that.
Cool.
I don't feel attacked from you. I don't feel judged. Okay. I know that from you, it's a matter of curiosity.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's like, because that's interesting. Because I do feel like, and this is, I don't know, this is kind of like a little nugget, but I do feel like knowing what I know about you and knowing the relationship that we have, you simply being curious about other religions or wanting to learn about them, I actually think that you need to dig into that. You need to and I actually know someone that I used to work with, one of my old coworkers, her parent did that for her. They were like, listen, this is where we are in our lives. This is where we stand. But we want to give you the opportunity to figure out where you want to be. Because that's a choice that really, it's not made by your parents. No matter how much they want to believe that it is, it's not made by your parents. It's not made by your kids. It's not made by anyone but you, right? And so they were really adamant about letting letting her be curious, being okay with her being curious. So they gave her like this amazing book. Gotta find the name of it. I will. And then when I do, I will share it with you all. But gotta find the name of the book. But it was basically a book that had like all these different types of religions, how they practice, what they believe in, their belief system. And one of the interesting things that she said was that, you know, at the core, they all believe, there's all something kind of like tying them together. There's a commonality there, right? And so I kind of feel like maybe it is, and I'm just kind of like, I'm assuming here, but I think maybe it is that you just haven't found what works for you. It's not that you don't necessarily believe, because I think you're there. I think you do believe. You just don't, I don't think that you found what works for you.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, and I think that you, especially knowing how you are about research, holy moly, oh my God, like there needs to be a role at Gas South. If you're from Gas South and you are an executive, please keep these words. Jamie Tiernan, you hold the budget, so please listen to what I'm about to say. Like, if there could be a role at Gas South that was like lead researcher, it would be Betsy Stevens.
Oh, I do love that.
You would be leading every day.
Can I have like senior rabbit hole diver? That is my job.
I love that title so much better.
That would be me.
I love that title so much better. But, and that's the thing. You have a gift when it comes to that. You do.
Thank you.
You have a gift when it comes to that. And I can see you like really finding your fit by doing that, like by just like say, you know what, and it doesn't have to be like this intense thing, like, oh my God, I'm just gonna go lock myself in a room, but like it starts out as being something very casual. Maybe somebody gives you a book and you start reading it, and then I can see you, the way your mind works, it's like, I don't want to know more information about this, and I want to, and you just like kind of like easily just falling into it that way. But that's just my little, it's just my little thing, my little piece, my little lesson for the day. But yeah.
I think part of it's because of, like I said, my parents were spiritual. They believed in a God. They believed in reincarnation. They believed in spirits. They believed in tarot cards. They believed in
wow, that's like so many different things going on there at the same time.
They believed in evil versus good. Like whenever we would move to a new house, because my dad was in the military, my mom would always bless the house. She would burn sage and go into the corners, and she'd be like, oh yeah, if there's a spirit, it smells like this and it's cold. So
wow,
so these are the things that I grew up with, and then somehow all of my best friends were like Catholic. If I went to church, it was Catholic Mass. So I got all this in my head.
And that's the thing. I think you're not really able to differentiate, because you're like, this conflicts this doesn't make sense, this is that, this is up, this is down, this is too much. And then I think because there's too much that you don't understand, you really need to figure out, okay, you need to take out all the noise, take out all the smoke screen, and be like, okay, I'm just going to focus, I'm just going to research. Like, just be open. And then but yeah, speaking of your mom like blessing or whatever, and you know, knowing me, we actually when we were building a house, me and the kids came and we buried a Bible in a foundation. So there's a Bible buried in the foundation. Like, it's actually in the kitchen, I believe, the kitchen part of
I feel like that's an important thing to be blessed.
No, I mean, like, I was very intentional about making sure that this house, this home, this place of dwelling was going to be like my little piece of peace. My little piece of peace. That was very important to me. So
I understand that. Based on the way that I was raised, I 100% understand that. Yeah. I know a lot of people are uncomfortable if I mention that. But you obviously don't seem to be. So.
No, and my parents growing up in the church and all that stuff, and my parents being Haitian, that in itself,
I think that kind of informs
oh
how
my
you're
gosh,
dealing with.
yes,
Like
exactly.
if I speak with somebody who is very, very Christian and doesn't have anything else feeding into that, they're like, oh, no, you're like no. My mother was a wonderful person.
Yeah.
She was very loving. She was recluse, but I always say that she was the keeper of lost children.
Oh, that's so nice.
So if I didn't have as many of these friends, but my brother had a lot of friends that they were just kind of throwaway kids. Like the parents were like, oh, you're 16, you're a little more difficult. Get out of my house.
Yeah.
Or whatever. My mom would bring them into the house and help take care of them. And that's why
So look at that. She was building that sense of community then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, but because of that, I'm like, how can you say because my mother believed a certain thing that she was a bad person?
Yeah. It doesn't, yeah.
And she wouldn't do anything unless it was in God's white light. She always lit a white candle and said a little something. I never heard what she said. It may have been in her head, but it was always God's white light. And she would say a little prayer before she did something so that it was only good spirits. So.
Very cool. Yeah. I mean, look, it sounds like you could probably create your own religion. But, no, but... yeah, so don't
send letters, don't send nasty.
You had a heathen on your show.
I feel my family, like my current family, I don't know if we're heathens or pagans. David is atheist, which is hysterical because his grandfather was an Episcopal priest.
Oh wow. So wait a minute. So but then your kids, Monty and Marin. Where do you think they're leaning towards? Like, do you feel like they're just heathens?
Marin is an atheist.
Oh.
She is an atheist and having some issues with a boyfriend right now, but he is hardcore Catholic. Family's hardcore Catholic. Grandma calls her the atheist girlfriend.
Wow.
Yes.
So you said so is that like a conflict for them?
No.
Their relationship? It's not. Okay. No,
no.
Okay.
The problem is he's not. It's just stupid stuff.
Okay. So. And what about Monty?
I don't know. Monty went through a phase where he was like, he would do a lot of going to the church groups for the kids and stuff. And I don't know if he believed or if he just wanted community or wanted to belong. I don't know which. He says now that he doesn't, but I don't know where he will end up.
Okay. Huh. Very interesting.
I feel like he's probably the most open.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Just because I feel like he might need something.
Support, like to find like you said, a sense of community.
He didn't grow up as confused as I did.
Yeah.
I mean, it was very obvious that my husband was an atheist. But we would tell them, like David would make comments like, no. I'm like, it's important for you to decide on your own, whatever church you want to go to. I'm like, I would love for you to visit all the different churches and stuff. And when we moved to North Fulton County, they had people in their classes that were Hindu, that were Buddhist, that were Jewish, that were Muslim, and I loved that. I loved them getting the perspective.
The exposure. Yeah, very cool. So yeah.
You knew that we were not sticking on one topic.
I know. It's just it kind of started one way. Yeah, it is. It is literally how we talk, which is amazing. I love it. So tying it all to your breast cancer journey, your you just seeing how your beliefs have shifted, or your perceptions have shifted, throughout life. You go through experiences and things change your perspective on people, on the environment, on things or whatever. And you are a mother, which is, as you may know, this is Mothers on the Go is my core audience, right? And so how do you find time after all of that, after all of these, how do you find time for Betsy? Like, what do you do for Betsy? Like, I will tell you, I struggle with that sometimes. Like, that was one of my goals for 2021, to start my self-care journey. And I did good, but then I kind of fell off. And then 2022, I have to say, I'm doing better. I'm better, definitely better, but it's a struggle. It's a struggle to have to juggle being a mother, being a wife, being, and then if
Being
you
the
have
Uber
health
driver.
issues, being an Uber driver. Oh my gosh, like, and then working. We actually have jobs. Like like how do you maneuver through all of that?
So when the kids were still at home, because obviously, I mean, my daughter's gone away to college and my son is living in our lake house.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Living
There's
in our
nothing
lake
wrong with
house.
that. He's still trying to find his way through life.
Oh no,
okay?
I meant the fact that we have a lake house.
Oh, awesome.
So, but anyway, when they were younger, I did find it easier for me to be like, no, I'm going to make this time. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to do that. They've got a wonderful daycare. That's fine. Okay, no, my kids are going to go to preschool. Okay, while they're in school. But now that they're gone, I actually find it harder to make time for myself because the empty nest thing, my husband wants to spend all the time with me.
Yes.
So then I feel more guilt not spending time with him than I did being away from the kids.
Wow. Okay.
And everybody deals with it.
Yeah, differently, right?
So,
right.
Like, I cried when mine went away, but I knew it was a good thing for them. Whereas David is in a job now where he has more time for life.
Okay.
So because of that, he feels bad about when they were younger and he wasn't
He
there.
didn't. Yeah. Okay.
Whereas
I can see that.
don't.
Okay.
So, but now I feel like he's like, no, I can I go with you to the grocery store?
Really?
So for me, just I'm not great about it. I do like running errands is like Betsy time.
Yes.
And I will like stroll through places.
You're like, I can do 2 laps around Target now. You know?
Well, like for me, one of my greatest joys, and I skipped it to be here with you today, is Saturday morning farmers market.
Yes.
And he was like, can I go with you? I'm like,
not really.
I'm like, the only person I allow to go with me is Marin.
So if you had one advice to give now that, you have older kids and, Mary's in college or whatever. So if you had advice to give mothers who feel like they're really struggling right now with all of these different priorities, right? Like I said at the beginning, we're super women and people expect us to be. What would that advice be?
I never felt that I was a superwoman. And I have a lot of women friends who are. Who are like, no, I'm doing everything perfectly, and they're very judgmental of their family members and stuff. Exactly. And I would see, it's like, I'm just slacking and nobody's dead. Everybody's fed, nobody's, you don't have to do everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Your kids will get into college even if they aren't doing 14 different activities. Even if they aren't getting straight A's at school, everything will be fine.
Okay. So that's the advice.
Yeah.
It'll be okay. The kids are not going to die.
It'll be okay.
Yep. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
And since you are now entering the teenage years, as you're going through struggles, find somebody to talk with.
Yes.
That took a while for me, and we were going through some major struggles with my son, and it took a long time to find somebody friends to talk with. And once I did, the shame fell off my shoulders, and I was actually useful. I was able to deal with things. But before then, because of the way we you have to be the superwoman. You have to, it's your fault if your kids are getting in trouble because this, and this. I always say, I'm like, I am pissed that I was not a mom in the 70s where you didn't have to pay that much attention to your kids. You didn't volunteer PTA. You didn't any of that shit.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry. I've been very conscious about
you
what I
have.
said.
You've done really good.
And I have the mouth of a sailor. It's my natural inclination.
Really good. Really good. I'm really proud of you. Cool.
So I got a lot of one-liners. I'm like, it's like things could always be worse.
Exactly.
Never try to do it on your own except help. And
find somebody you can.
Find somebody. Don't deal with the shame. And if you are getting ready to have a baby, always have pockets.
Yes.
Always have pockets and never say never.
Absolutely. And it's
about
okay to
you,
say
Beth?
no. I think that's my thing that I'm beginning to learn. I mean, I knew and I've heard of it, but I hadn't really
I haven't heard of
practiced
that.
it.
That's one that I haven't heard yet.
But I hadn't really like practiced it. So now I'm getting more and more comfortable with saying no. It's okay. It's okay to say no. Like you have to learn, especially with the kids. Like the kids are like, "Can we do this? Can we do that?" Sorry, like not today. It's not happening today. And you have to be okay with that. There's you don't have to feel guilty with saying no. You're only one person.
It's actually better for them.
It's actually because then they see boundaries, right? They get to
And
see.
you don't get everything, and then you learn about delayed gratification. We are
Or earning
horrible
it.
as our culture.
Instant gratification.
Yes,
That's
and
cultural
that's
living.
horrible for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's our fault that they're that way.
It is.
I'm going to blame the baby boomers. It's their fault.
Oh, okay. Blame them. All right. Well, Betsy, it was amazing having you on today. I can't wait. Well, thank you, first of all, for sharing your story and your experience, because it's something that's really emotional, right? And it's personal. And
I didn't cry.
you did. Just, but it's something, but I really truly feel like there are a lot of other women that are listening that are in that same boat, and they need to hear this. They need to hear this message. So thank you so much for coming on and allowing us to hear your story and hear your experience. And so I thank you guys for listening. Please engage with us. Follow us on Instagram, Inside the Bubble HG. We're also on Facebook, and don't forget to follow us, to subscribe, and to share. Like, maybe somebody who's struggling right now and who needs to hear this, right? So share, and definitely, if you guys want to send us a message, if you guys want to interact and engage with us, do that. Find us, send us a message, let us know how you felt about it. Drop a heart emoji. We would love to see that and hear that. Drop a heart.
Yes.
Thank you so much. We are dropping new episodes every week on Monday, so make sure to stay tuned. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye. I hope you enjoyed our show today. Hit the subscribe button and share. Share this pod with your family, with your friends, with your girlfriends, and follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Inside the Bubble with HG. Keep the conversation going. Drop us a heart emoji. Engage with us. We would love to hear from you. New episodes are dropping every Monday on your podcast streaming platforms. And remember, there's purpose in your story.